Giles gets set to make his second consecutive start for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers in place of the injured Buck Pierce, and Kenyon Rambo gets set to make his first start in over a year. The leading receiver in the league a couple of years ago, and he is chomping at the bit to get back in business tonight. That is game 2 of our CFL on TSN doubleheader. After Hamilton drops to 1-4, the Riders improve to 4-1. And Rod and Dwayne were talking about that rematch with Montreal next Friday night. Dave and Chris and Matt and Milt. You know, Hamilton last week, they were in Montreal. They were outscored in the second half of that game, 27-8. And then here in Saskatchewan, they're outscored in the second half, 24-10. Key mistakes at key times does the Ticats in. But we're going to shift our attention to game number 2. And I'm going to start by asking you, Milt. Kenyon Rambo was the man. Before he got hurt early last season. How tough is it for him to just jump right back into the... He's 31 years old. How difficult is the task at hand tonight for him?
It's very difficult, and I know what he's going through. My last year in Winnipeg in 2008, I set out the first 6 games, and I attempted to come back after that, and I just remember that first game more so than physical, mentally. You want to go out there and get hit. You want that knee to get challenged. And the thing I'm really scared about is how he's going to feel after this game. I remember after I played that first game, that next week I could not play because the knee was too sore. And his injury was a whole lot worse than mine. He had that ACL surgery, and Schultz, he talked about that, how difficult it is to come back from that injury. So I'm kind of concerned how he's going to feel. I think he'll be okay today, but after that, I think it's going to be pretty difficult for him to play again.
Well, I think, you know, in 1993, I had an ACL injury, and it took me a long time to come back. And as you expressed, it does mess with you mentally. The thing is, the torque on your leg when you're making those cuts explosively, that's going to think Kenyon Rambo has to overcome. I think the biggest single difference in this game is you have Henry Burris 122 times. He is prepared for a football game. Stephen Giles 3 times. Now, all logic says that Henry should be able to go out there and execute at an extremely high level. The key for Winnipeg, go into this game with a sense of humility. You played an Edmonton Eskimo team that was at an emotional low, maybe an all-time low previously. Not this time. Not this time with the Calgary Stampeders. They're on an emotional high.
So this may be a funny question, but your ACL is probably bigger than Rambo's, right? So wouldn't it make sense that it would take longer for yours to heal than Rambo's?
It's a possibility. I really don't know the physiology behind it, but in the course of the question, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'm glad he's back, you know, because he's a phenomenal player. You know, watching last week's game, Calgary Stampeders defense really stepped up their tempo and intensity. I think that was a difference in the ball game, and them turning the tide in the Saskatchewan Roughriders, who had their number all of last season. I really believe that that's going to be the key tonight against young Stephen Giles, just making his 3rd start. And I think that, you know, and Stephen's been watching this film all week long thinking, oh, my goodness, man, I hope my offensive line plays better than this. Because the Saskatchewan quarterback, Darian Durant, took a serious butt kicking last week. And he's going to need some help from his teammates, in my opinion, guys, because he can't do it all himself. You know, last week he was Mr. Everything. He ran the ball when he had to. He completed some tough throws. He's got a strong arm, but he's going to need to stay upright in order to get that done, something Darian Durant was not able to do against his defense last week.
No, Calgary was very good. So was Henry Burris. John Huffnagel said after the game, we knew what we wanted to do and what we needed to do this season. If we're going to accomplish our goals, we had to beat Saskatchewan. This was a team they were unable to beat, Schultz, and they went in and pushed them around. Is this a springboard for the Stamps?
You have to think so. I mean, when you looked at the Calgary Stampeders, their single greatest challenge maybe of the entire season was the first 3 games because they played them in such a tight, congested time. Then when they had the 10 days in between the game previously and the game with the Riders, it was a completely different team. So just the fact that they can go through that preparation process, big advantage.
Well, I look at this Calgary Stampeders, what they did with the offensive backfield last week. You know, they rested Joffrey Reynolds some. They played Cornish, and Cornish got off, and he got the most valuable Canadian of the week. And to me, I feel like this spells danger for other football teams, because when he can rest the best running back in the league, in Joffrey Reynolds, and get production from Cornish like they did last week, this causes problems for the defense. So to me, Winnipeg's going to have their hands full.
Well, on the Winnipeg side of the ball, my concern is their kicking game. Renaud is out, and Cerna has to handle both duties. Right now, he's 10 for 16 with his field goals, but now he has to punt and kick. So I think that's going to be a big concern for them. Because in the CFL, like everybody knows, field position is big, and I think they're going to pay for that this week.
Winnipeg wasn't able to win a lot in Calgary. Milt, you guys didn't win there since 2002.
Why'd you bring that up?
Well, I'm just saying. I'm just saying they haven't won there since 2002. Let's see what happens tonight. Game 2 of our doubleheader.
Thank you, David. The 3-1 Stampeders put an 8-game home unbeaten streak on the line as Calgary meets the 2-2 Blue Bombers from Winnipeg here at McMahon Stadium. Comfortable night in southern Alberta, no wind. And although it's a little overcast, a temperature of 20 degrees at kickoff.
After 372 days of rehabilitation on his knee, Kenyon Rambo back with the Calgary Stampeders, 2008 leading receiver in the Canadian Football League, back in the lineup. And on the other sideline, Stephen Giles gets his 3rd start in the CFL, 2nd in a row with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. He is 1-0 as a starter and has started exactly 119 games less than the opposition quarterback, Henry Burris.
Paul Lapalisa's Blue Crew snapped a 2-game losing streak with a 3-phase win over Edmonton last week. And on the other sideline, John Hufnagel's Stampeders scored 33 second-half points to beat Saskatchewan, ending a drought against the Rough Riders. Now they'll try and keep pace with the Rough Riders after Saskatchewan's win over Hamilton. Alexis Cerna will handle all the kick duties tonight. Mike Renault is on the 1-game IR. We're underway, and here's Dion Murphy, who opened the game last week with a 50-yard return. He has been explosive, but good coverage that time, holding Murphy to 25 yards on the return.
Big bounce-back game for Henry Burris last week against Saskatchewan. He's coming off a bad game against the Argonauts, but snapped out of it with 4 touchdown passes against the Riders last week. Here's the offense. There is Kenyon Rambo. Now, he'll play slot back tonight, not wide receiver like he did in 08 and the beginning of 09. Steve Middleton in at right guard will have to handle Doug Brown.
Well, they go to work from their 36, and here's a crosser, and Robbie Bryant, the offensive player of last week, gets cut down at the first down stick. LeVar Glover on the corner with the tackle, and they'll talk about it as Robbie Bryant returns to the huddle. Bryant with a couple of touchdown catches last week and 116 yards against Saskatchewan. So first down from the 46. Play action fake. And into the flat. Nick Lewis is brought down by Javon Johnson.
It's Winnipeg defensive front 7 that tremendous in the middle. You look at Hopkins and Brown, but there's one change in that linebacking core. Courtney Smith will play with Joe Lobendon and Ike Charlton. There's a secondary. 2 changes there. Ian Logan goes back in at safety. Alex Suber back at halfback.
Starting lineups are brought to you by Rona, proud sponsor of the CFL. Rona, doing it right. So 2nd and 4. And Burris under pressure. Flushed out of there, and he'll have the first down. Henry Burris across midfield.
Yeah, good push from the front 4 of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. This is a Bombers squad that was tied for first coming into this week in the sack totals with 13. 10 coming from the defensive line, and Doug Brown on pursuit. Finally help out LeVar Glover to bring down Henry Burris. And there's your leader, Philip Hunt.
Big Doug Brown digs in, a gain of 5 for Burris, a first down to the Winnipeg 53. And here's the first carry for Joffrey Reynolds, who is met in the backfield and shut down as Philip Hunt, who has had an impressive start to 2010, meets Reynolds and drops him for a loss.
372 days of rehab for Kenyon Rambo, and he is back in the lineup. I mentioned that slot back. PK Sam was put on the 9 games, so timing was good for Kenyon Rambo to come back. They wanted to make sure. There was his numbers from 2008 when he led the Canadian Football League in receiving. 100 catches, over 1,400 yards.
Ian Logan flying up to the line. Safety showing blitz on 2nd and 13. Here comes Logan. And Burris sidesteps and drops it off. Bryant the catch, but closing quickly, LeVar Glover at the Winnipeg 50. Short gain, it'll be third down.
So for Kenyon Rambo, he's going to try and ease himself back into this game. And I know Henry Burris has said in the paper a couple times this week that he would like to get the ball to Rambo as quickly as he can. And we're going to take a good look at him. Can he get off the jam if that's what Winnipeg decides to do? Can he take the hit? How does he feel coming out of his breaks? Lots of question marks that Rambo's going to try to answer as this game goes on.
Kirk Dale's had a brilliant game last week against Saskatchewan. Looks for another coffin corner kick. Gets it into the corner. Javon Johnson got first contact, and penalty flags fly. We'll sort it out when we come back. Bombers will have the football. The CFL on TSN is brought to you in part by Rona, proud sponsor of the CFL. Rona, doing it right. An illegal block called on LeVar Glover, and that pushes the Bombers back to their own 5-yard line. Tough way for Stephen Giles and the Bombers offense to go to work for the first time tonight. In a stadium where they have not won since 2002. Quarterback drop, and Giles up across the 10 to the 13. And a pickup of 8.
Take a look at that Winnipeg offense around Stephen Giles. Terrence Jeffers Harris making a name for himself in a big way. 325 yards receiving and 3 touchdowns for the rookie out of Vanderbilt. Of course, Fred Reed in the backfield. He's got a 6.3-yard rushing average. And there's the O-line. Brendan Leback in at left guard.
Second and a couple, and Fred Reed has room off the right side. And Reed has a first down. He'll be pushed out by Brandon Isaac as the starter and defensive halfback for Calgary.
Best games of his career game against the Calgary Stampeders last year. 167 yards rushing. And he's got that big playability. There's backs that can pound it at you like Corey Boyd, Joffrey Reynolds, that will get the 10, 5-yard cracks and try and wear you out as the game goes on. Well, Fred Reed is a game breaker. He's one of those guys, you give him a little seam and he can take it the distance.
So now a little breathing room for the Bombers offense. And a quick hitter gets into the hands of Darius Bowman, but dropped immediately by Brandon Browner on the corner.
Take a look at that Calgary Stampeder defense, and I agree with Matt Dunnigan just before the game. Dunnigan talking about how they really stepped it up against the Saskatchewan Roughriders. They ranked second against the run and first in the most important category, points allowed. Tom Johnson in the middle really stepped up last week. One change in the secondary. Brandon Isaac plays in there for Brandon Smith at halfback.
So 2nd and 6. Short drop Giles. He's got Bowman. Bowman's got a first down. And he's wrestled out by Brandon Browner. A couple of rangy players. Bowman at 6'3" and Brandon Browner at 6'3" working against each other.
And you know, one thing that Bowman knows is that he's going to get bump and run coverage from Brandon Browner a ton. So what is he going to do there? He's going to start to use his waggle and his stem. What that means is he's coming off the line of scrimmage on an angle, not just trying to run through Browner, try and get him to turn his shoulders, turn his body so he can get some leverage, and then just turns it out.
A couple of important first downs for the Bombers, starting at their 5. Flags down. Edwards taken down quickly by Keon Raymond. Looked like the Bombers receivers were ahead of the snap.
But a good drive so far for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. We'll see if that's the call on this flag to get off to a positive start.
Bud Steen in charge.
14. Offside, Winnipeg, number 14. That penalty is declined. It's 2nd down.
So no gain on the catch to Edwards. Terrence Jeffers Harris was offside. And you can see Paul LaPolice deploying the quick game. He's got those receivers who have excelled in yards after the catch this year. 3 in the top 7. Second and 9. Quick hitter, Brock Brown. And Ralph with a first down at the 45.
And what you like about this drive is the way it started with a good play call from Paul LaPolice to have Stephen Giles go on a quarterback draw. And then from there, it's just that quick passing game you talked about, not allowing the Calgary Stampeders to grab early momentum with their big pass rush that they showed a week ago against the Riders. Quarterback draw makes them spy Giles in the backfield. He rushed last week for 63 yards on 8 carries, so they've got to be careful with Stephen Giles and his ability to run the ball. And there's Jamie Barise, the offensive coordinator, along with Paul LaPolice working together to put together that offense and a good drive to get things started.
So with that running game, the offense has looked similar to how it operated with Buck Pierce at the controls for the first 3 games. First down, and Fred Reed to the right side and brought down quickly. There's Wes Lysak playing in his 100th game as a Calgary Stampeder, also a former Winnipeg Blue Bomber.
Yeah, you know, he's 100th game, the most experienced safety really in the Canadian Football League now, because we've seen some turnover. Guys like Orlando Steinauer in Toronto and Baron Miles in Vancouver, who have retired and moved into coaching, makes him the most experienced safety in the league.
Sandy Beveridge as well, just retiring. Yes. So now the 8th play of the drive. 2nd and 10.
Here he comes.
Blitz from Lysak. Giles has to throw it away. Everybody covered.
Good drive and a good decision for Winnipeg on the road to get out of the shadow of their goalpost. You're going to see Wes Lysak coming here on that safety blitz that we just talked about him. Now, he gets blocked up in the congestion in the offensive line, but there wasn't one receiver for Stephen Giles that had a route that took that football deep down to the middle. It was all curls all around and all well covered, so he just threw it away.
So again, Mike Renaud not here for Winnipeg. Alexis Cerna handling the punt duties as well. And the return across the 35 for Dion Murphy. These two teams split their series a year ago. First meeting of 2010 between Winnipeg and Calgary, and Henry Burris goes back to work from the Stampeder 36. Almost picked off Odell Willis. The former Stampeder with the knockdown that he thought should have been a pick, just like Moulton Hopkins last week against Edmonton.
Odell Willis didn't practice all week. He had personal issues to take care of. He's the right defensive end for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers on this play. He realizes it's a quick game because of the cut block Ben Archibald tried on him, uses his hands to fend that off, and then you're right, almost has it.
Had a couple of knockdowns by that defensive line last week in the first quarter against Ricky Ray. 2nd and 10. Here comes the pressure. Wide open, Nick Lewis. Now a foot race. Correct top and take him down. Yes, he does, but Nick Lewis all the way to the Winnipeg 10.
Absolutely no disguise from the Winnipeg Blue Bombers on this play. They're putting their linebackers in the line of scrimmage, and they're also putting their safety and Ian Logan up there. And Logan is not going to disguise this at all. Watch how he steps up early in the play. And he is saying to Henry Burris, look at the middle right here. It is wide open. Henry Burris starts the count, then slows it down. He gets the audible he wants, and that audible is Nick Lewis right down Main Street.
64 yards for Lewis, his biggest play of 2010. First and goal at the 10. And an incompletion as Kenyon Rambo's number called for the first time.
Let's go back to that play one more time and just take a look. There's what I'm talking about in Logan and the middle being wide open. Henry Burris does a nice job on this play to start his cadence, stop, regroup, take a look to his receivers. He knew who was the adjuster going to the middle. That was Nick Lewis. Then he started his cadence again. Ian Logan had declared. Big play.
So 2nd and goal. Burris dancing around and a penalty marker down as Henry Burris walks in, but it's coming back. A holding call against the Stamps.
And I think it was Edwin Harrison, the right tackle. He was working on Philip Hunt one-on-one.
Holding. Calgary number 53. It's a 10-yard penalty. We'll repeat second down.
It is the right tackle, Edwin Harrison, the rookie.
There's the matchup right there. And it looked like Edwin Harrison had pretty good position early on. And then as Philip Hunt tried to get around him there, he grabs the jersey, and you could see he's got the hands on the inside, which is where they're supposed to be, but he grabbed that cloth as Hunt tried to get away. He was nabbed.
So now 2nd and goal from the 20. And again, Logan lining up on the line, picked up, pass complete, touchdown, and there he is. Kenyon Rambo's back. Missing all of 2009, and in his return to the CFL, Kenyon Rambo with a touchdown grab.
Well, you can see his recognition of the defense hasn't left him as he goes straight into the middle again. The safety up one more time, the middle wide open. This time it's Kenyon Rambo, the adjuster, and that's how you get back into the swing of things.
Said he wanted to keep the party going, and he just started it tonight. Maver adds the extra point, and the Stampeders strike first at McMahon.
Winnipeg Blue Bombers are really declaring early what they're doing. There's Logan again in the middle. That's leaving, or up on the line, that's leaving the middle wide open. And here is Javon Johnson, who's now in a one-on-one situation in Kenyon Rambo. Now Johnson gets caught looking in the backfield. That's his issue, and then he gets in a trail position with nobody in the middle. That's where Kenyon Rambo heads, and that's impossible to cover once you get caught with your feet flat-footed.
Here's former Stampeder Marcus Howell. He's tripped up by Eric Fraser on the kick return. So 5 plays, 74 yards, and Calgary burns the safety blitz twice as Kenyon Rambo scores his first touchdown of 2010.
Well, let's take a look at the route. Kenyon Rambo is going one-on-one now. He knows he just has to get to the middle, but there's the hesitation there. You see the feet of Javon Johnson. He stops moving, stays settled looking at the quarterback, and when you do that, said it many, many times, you get the best ticket in the house to watch a touchdown by the opposition. Cavis Reed, if he's going to declare that safety blitz that early, he's going to make it a pretty easy night for Henry Burris. I'm back. I'm back, baby. Keep the party going.
And an emotional scene at the bench. There's Pat Clayton, the athletic therapist. Those two have probably spent a lot of time together in the last year rehabbing what was an extremely serious ACL injury. I guess that would be redundant, but even as ACL injuries go, it was a complex surgery and rehab, and Kenyon Rambo's back. Bombers will start at their 30. Here's Fred Reed trying to kick it outside, and he'll be dropped for loss behind the line of scrimmage by Tom Johnson, who was ferocious last week against Saskatchewan.
You know, that is a tremendous picture there when you see Kenyon Rambo with Pat Clayton and 372 days of rehab, because for a player, you go through so many ups and downs when you're rehabbing an injury and wondering if you'll ever come back in over a full year. And Kenyon Rambo's was more than an ACL. It was a, yes, it was, but it also had joint damage. Great job by the surgeons, and of course Pat Clayton to get him back.
Loss of 3, 2nd and 13. Here comes the heat on Giles. He's flushed. Now looks downfield, and ricochet to Terrence Edwards. Off Jeffers Harris to Edwards, and it's a catch and a first down at the Winnipeg 41. Not exactly the way they drew it up.
No, but not a bad throw from Stephen Giles, first of all, because he's rolling to his left, gets his hip around just a little bit high. There's the tip. You hear many times that when you see a zone defense, which is the Calgary Stampeders defense on this play, you try to layer it, put different layers in the defense, one underneath and one over top, and this time the over top caught the deflection.
First down at the 42. And they'll swing it out to Edwards. And there's Wes Lysak to toss him down about the 48-yard line. Terrence Edwards, second in the league in receiving through 4 weeks. Last year, he was struggling out of the gate in the first 4 weeks, just 134 yards. Been a different story this season.
Sure has. There's his last season numbers after 4 games. More than double.
And with 3 minutes to go, first quarter. And 2nd and 3, Winnipeg. Here's the option. Giles keeps and will get stopped right at the line of scrimmage and driven back there by the middle linebacker, Juwan Simpson, who was a star last week against Saskatchewan as well.
Yes, he was, and that entire defense really played well. And in this play here, they're going to just string this play along so that Stephen Giles has to work this way down the line and never really gets his shoulders upfield. As long as you can continue to string this out. You see the pitch man is covered by Charleston Hughes, and then Juwan Simpson steps in and puts the hit on the quarterback.
So Cerna gets set to kick it away. Dion Murphy awaits. And Murphy at his 23. Trying to get outside. Flag down, and Murphy steps out at about the 33-yard line when it will be Calgary football. Stamps lead 7-0 on a Kenyon Rambo touchdown, and Henry Burris told us that Rambo makes this entire offense that much better.
I always tell people when it comes to having, great units out there, you got to have that leader, but also you need that emotional leader. And Rambo is that. I mean, he's a guy, he gets everybody fired up, everybody going. He knows how to say and do the right things. He knows how to hit the right triggers, the right switches within each player. And so when you have a guy like that, always when you get the ball in his hands, everybody's going to respond in a positive way because they know when the ball's in his hands, he's going to do positive things.
So an adrenaline surge for the entire Stamps unit with that early touchdown by the returning star. Here's John Cornish, the top Canadian last week. John Cornish, 5 carries, 77 yards, and a 50-yarder against the Saskatchewan Roughriders. And what he was most proud about was it was when the game was still on the line, not just in extra time.
Absolutely, and a tremendous average at almost 9 yards per carry, and that looks like about what he got there. When he gets the football, he is productive with it.
Mike Charlton shaken up on the tackle. And into the game comes Merrill Johnson, a newcomer, onto the roster with Marcellus Bowman off because of a hand injury. So there's the newcomer to the Winnipeg Blue Bombers defense. Second and 1. Drew Tate is in, and Tate trying to push for the first down. Not much there. Drew Tate got some valuable reps last week against the Rough Riders.
When you go back and take a look at Kenyon Rambo and his touchdown, he looked smooth out of his break there. I know there was a lot of talk from John Hufnagel about maybe bringing him back last week. They weren't quite sure. They thought, let's be safe, give him one more week. He was still a little sore after practices. See how he reacts after this game, but just a real nice smooth break and acceleration, because that was the concern bringing him back too early. Did he have the acceleration out of his break?
First and 10, and here's Murphy out of the backfield, and he's brought down quickly as LeVar Glover on the corner made sure he couldn't turn it up.
Yeah, Murphy starts out the right side, almost like a fullback or running back in the play here, and then he's going to cross the opposite side of the formation and then go right out into the flat. So it's a little fake to John Cornish there, almost like that zone read, and then an extension on it out to Dion Murphy.
So 6 for Murphy, 2nd and 4. Should be the final play of the quarter. And there's Ryan Thelwell with a catch. Speaking of comeback players, off an Achilles injury last year. First down Calgary as the first quarter comes to a close. 7-0 Stamps. First quarter stats brought to you by Tim Hortons, proud sponsor of the CFL.
Yeah, look at that, 122 yards of passing from Henry Burris, and 84 of them have been when the Winnipeg Blue Bombers put Ian Logan on the line of scrimmage out of the safety spot real early. Nick Lewis had a big one, and then Kenyon Rambo, his first touchdown in the Canadian Football League since the West Final in 2008.
Is a storybook start for him to a new year and a new position as well.
Yeah, he moves into the slot back position, and that's going to take an adjustment as well, because he's going to have to take the different angles, the different releases off the line of scrimmage, who's coming from where, blitz pickups, things like that. There's all kinds of new nuances at that position that he didn't see as a wide receiver.
So we start the second quarter, a first down Calgary at the Stampeder 45. And mix up there is bad handoff between Henry Burris and John Cornish, and maybe that ride and decide. There was a little indecision.
Well, I think Cornish wanted it, first of all, and he was a little hard on it. And Henry Burris has done this absolutely perfectly with Joffrey Reynolds many times, but has obviously lots less reps with John Cornish.
So a loss of 3 at 2nd and 13. Philip Hunt got quite a jump, maybe too good a jump, and Robbie Bryant, a catch pushed out at the Calgary bench at the 54. That'll be a yard short of the first down. Let's find out what the penalty's all about. Philip Hunt says he got drawn offside. Looks like the options are being given, though, to Henry Burris, and it would be 3rd and 1.
Offside. Winnipeg number 53. It's a 5-yard penalty. Repeat, second down.
So they'll go back to second down. The other thing that Kenyon Rambo brings when he goes to that inside position, here he is here. He's also going to have that speed to open up room for his teammates. In this case, it's going to be Robbie Bryant on that little play. Now, they're going to take the penalty, get second down again. But you got great speed from Kenyon Rambo. He's going to draw coverage with him and open up the underneath stuff for guys like Robbie Bryant and Nick Lewis.
So instead of 3rd and 1, the Stampeders opt to take 2nd and 8. And Burris has Nick Lewis right at the first down stick. Mike Charlton, LeVar Glover were there, but Lewis comes up with another first down catch.
Now the one question that Kenyon Rambo will have as this game continues is, can he take a hit? Because we can see now he can run. He's coming out of his break strong. I've seen him block on a couple of plays. He's got good speed down the seams, so it looks like he hasn't lost a step in his speed. Now he's got to psychologically be ready to take that big hit when he catches one on a curl or something, or some crossing route over the middle. And then once he does that, it'll be behind him.
They do bring out the chains. We'll see if Lewis did get the first down, and it's that close, and it is a first down. So Nick Lewis has delivered a couple of second down conversions this game, and 8 on the year. As a go-to guy in the clutch for John Hufnagel's offense. Big to Cornish and over the middle. The pass incomplete. Looking for Rob Cote, playing in his 50th game as a Calgary Stampeder.
Hey, look at this Calgary Stampeder team, and they go on the road to start the season, play against Toronto, play them here at home first, and then beat them there, then go on the road, Hamilton and Toronto. That loss to Toronto a couple of weeks ago, a lot of people questioning whether or not this team was going to be a team that could contend for first in the West Division. You know, they beat the Saskatchewan Roughriders, many thought were the best team in the league at that point, and now get Kenyon Rambo back. All of a sudden, this team looks like one of the powerhouses again.
Got a lot of weapons. 2008 Grey Cup champs. Over the middle it goes. And there's Nick Lewis with another second down conversion. And his 4th catch of the game.
All of a sudden, it looks like even Nick Lewis is playing with a little more confidence. Not that he needs more confidence, but he just works right around there calmly, right around linebacker Courtney Smith, who was a little shallow on his drop there. Opened up some space for the slot back.
Well, he's feeling it with touchdowns in each of the last 3 games. A long wait last year. John Cornish takes the handoff, and he'll get tossed down. There's Don Oramacion, the University of Manitoba product, slamming the door.
Every now and then, Henry Burris, we've said so many times how well he does this zone read play there when he gets John Cornish. Every now and then, the quarterback makes the wrong choice there. He's trying to decide just as he has the ball in the in the stomach of Cornish. And that time, in just a split second more, he pulls that and has a big gain around the end.
12th play of the drive, and Joffrey Reynolds checks back in for duty. Just once has he ever rushed for over 100 against Winnipeg. Gets the ball on the screen, and it'll be brought down at the 39-yard line, short of the first down.
One of the other questions for this Calgary team was the offensive line, and I highlighted in the introduction Steve Middleton because pressure on him for a couple of reasons. Moulton Hopkins had a big game against Edmonton for Winnipeg. Doug Brown is one of the perennial top defensive linemen in the interior there, so he's got that to deal with. But he also heard that Dimitris Sumpas was released this week, is going through waivers in the National Football League and is the property of the Stampeders.
Well, here's the kid, Rob Maver, who's had a terrific start to his CFL career, but this is just his 2nd test from outside the 35 from 45 yards out. And Maver puts it through. So that's his personal best. And it's 10-0 Calgary. Back at McMahon Stadium, where Jermaine Franklin's on the sidelines.
Thanks, Chris. Stephen Giles told me that his first win as a starter in the CFL worked wonders for his confidence. Just going into a game, preparing for it, knowing he's the man his teammates are depending on to win is a special feeling to him. It's just his 3rd CFL start, but there are 2 areas he wants to improve on immediately. The first is ball protection. He was guilty of 2 interceptions against Edmonton last week. And the second, he wants an opportunity to air the ball out. And you know, a quarterback that wants to air the ball out usually doesn't have any shortage of confidence.
Coming off his first complete game in the Canadian Football League and starting at the 35. And the drop play for Reed will scamper across the 40. Reed has 6, brought down by Keon Raymond.
Winnipeg Blue Bombers lead the Canadian Football League coming into this week with big plays. 15 on offense, 18 total. So you know that Stephen Giles has the weapons. Terrence Edwards can get behind a secondary in a heartbeat. And we've watched Terrence Jeffers-Harris, who has been that yak yard leader in the Canadian Football League, can make people miss once he catches those intermediate routes. So he's got the weapons.
207 yards after the catch for Terrence Jeffers-Harris. And there he is, first time today, and made the first man miss, but then gets nailed short of the first down stick, Brandon Browner. And Winnipeg will be looking at 3rd down.
He's a strong guy, both upper body and lower body. When you look at the yak yards we're talking about, and there's the leader, 207 of his 325 coming in, and these are all numbers coming into this week. But look at the percentage. 63.7% of his yardage were yak yards after the catch.
3rd and 1, the offense stays on the field. Giles off the right side. Good surge behind right guard Steve Morley. Kelly Butler, the right tackle. And that'll move the chains.
He's 6'2" and 216, but it's a thick, strong 216 where he can make those people miss. You got to break down as a defensive back or linebacker, really wrap him up to bring him to the ground. Couple of touchdowns against Toronto, and then touchdown last week
in the win against Edmonton. Giles taking a look. He's taking that deep shot. And he overthrows Darius Bowman, who was in behind coverage.
He was, but Darius Bowman looked like he got jammed or put the brakes on somehow, because when the ball was in the air, then he restarted. Well, let's take a look here. You see Brandon Browner is trying to cut to him. There's the jam for Browner. That's why he had to restart and then couldn't run underneath it. Browner may have got away with one there because that ball looked like it was almost in the air. And you're allowed to defend your area if you're square, but it didn't look like he was square. He was running past him and still made contact.
Well, Jermaine told you he wanted to take a deep shot or two. The first one unsuccessful. Now they scatter out of that formation behind Giles. 2nd and 10. And they've got Bowman wide open. First down. And he'll be bumped out at the Calgary bench at the Stampeder 46-yard line.
Well, the one thing we always knew about Stephen Giles is he can run. Against the Edmonton Eskimos, he did well there. And you can see his arm strength with this throw as he breaks the huddle. And you can see them in that formation. Everybody in the eye behind Stephen Giles. But the good gun on the throw here. A couple steps and right out to that sideline.
Last week, the Bombers had a 23-0 lead early, but prior to that, they trailed 8-0, 16-0, 21-0. So they're in a familiar position here. Quickly, right side, busted it, and goodbye. Fast from Reed, touchdown. 46 yards. Well, that's shades of last year.
Well, there are times when Fred Reed gets caught dancing in the backfield a little bit, but Paul LaPolice will take the good and the bad together, because with this guy, we mentioned off the top of the show, he just needs a small crease, and when he gets it, that acceleration can take him through there in a hurry. No second layer, no linebackers to be seen, and he is gone.
Second touchdown of the year for Reed. Bombers get right back in it. And now it's Calgary by 3. Find out how you can create your own plays at NissanArmchairHero.com.
Fred Reed in the backfield. He wants to get to the outside. He's going to need one block, and that's the seal block, and he gets it from Kelly Butler. As he gets this football, bounces to his right. Now he's got to seal that side off, and Butler does that. He takes a couple of guys out right here. The big block to get Fred Reed on the corner, and then he uses his great speed.
Dion Murphy from his 12. Strung out, and there's Suber, and Alex Suber will bring him down. So great cover by the kick team of the Bombers after that 46-yard rump by Fred Reed.
27-year-old from Grand Rapids, Michigan, right here with the great seal block to come out and just force the corner. He also gets a little piece of Malik Jackson there as well. The linebacker who was trying to scrape to the hole. He couldn't get there either because the big body of Kelly Butler at 6'8", 330 seals the deal. And then that's what we talked about this team. Look at Fred Reed. You give him a little blink of an opening and he is gone.
Remember, 167 yards here last year in a visit to McMahon. Burris wants to get it back in a hurry, and he's got Kenyon Rambo up across the 50-yard line. And a late flag. And a horse collar, and the Stampeders taking exception to this because it was a horse collar that had Rambo injured last year.
Boy, was it ever, and he caught Ian Logan cross his face, and it was Logan who ran him down on the sideline and brought him down from behind. There's Rambo. He's going to go up the seam and then right across the face of the safety, Logan. Now this is the end of the play. Tries to wrap him up. No, that's just a clean tackle. That's just
wrong with
Rambo.
that, is there? Certainly not a horse collar.
No, it wasn't.
Rambo might have thought he was taken down at the Calgary bench, but the momentum of the players took him out. And
Objectionable conduct. Calgary number 85, dead ball foul. First down.
That's the right call. I mean, that's the right call. Now Kenyon Rambo is going to be sensitive to this anytime he gets tackled from behind, because that's how he was injured, as you mentioned, Chris. So you can understand that he's upset. But that was a clean tackle. He wrapped him up around the waist. He didn't grab the shoulder pads, the harness, and it even counts as a horse collar now if you grab the jersey from high. But you can see he's just right around the waist, no hand up on the shoulder pad area. Now, not sure what else he could be upset with.
And there he was trying to get at Logan and being held back by teammates. Chris Jones in the middle of it. Carl McCartney, Keon Raymond. Joffrey Reynolds to work straight ahead, and he'll bulldoze to the 50-yard line.
Go back to the beginning of last year against the BC Lions, and it was Javi Glatt who didn't. There's no malicious intent here. It was just a tackle from behind. And there's the horse collar that caused the damage to Kenyon Rambo's knee. So you know he will be sensitive to tackles from behind. As we mentioned, it took him 372 days to get back.
So 2nd and 3 from the Calgary 50, and Burris is going to throw, and he overthrows Nick Lewis, who was open, and the Bombers come up with a hold. Odell Willis in the middle of it. The former Stampeder has some words for an old teammate.
You know, the Stampeders are going to want to rally around Kenyon Rambo. We're real happy to have him back. I'm not sure what else that could have happened. Maybe there was something that we didn't see from that replay from Ian Logan, but from what we could see, it looked like a pretty clean tackle from behind.
Just at the end of it, and it's going to happen, the knee looked like it got into an uncomfortable position. And we've got a time count violation against the Stampeders.
5-yard penalty when it's third down.
Now, it looked like, you know, Ian Logan may have slid underneath him a little bit, and maybe he thought he was trying to kick his leg or something, but Logan was down and just sliding on a bounce. You can see the left knee, well, his ankle actually twists too. Maybe he was... Did Rambo possibly think it was a hit out of bounds?
There's Devon Johnson at the 83-yarder last week, and nearly tightrope the sideline there. Always dangerous. Bombers take over with 5:45 left first half. They'll start at their own 32, coming off that touchdown drive, capped by a 46-yard Fred Reed run.
And number 3 looks pretty good behind center right now. Good drive.
Said he had a full game of film to assess and build on strengths and correct mistakes. Ball security, as Jermaine Franklin said, was a priority, and he almost coughed that one up.
The responsibility of the quarterback is to put it in the right place for the running back. His eyes are down the field. He doesn't want to look at the football. If he looks at his football, he has to take his eyes off the defensive players trying to tackle him. So it's the responsibility of the quarterback to put it in the right spot.
So we've seen each quarterback have a problem with that so far tonight. Loss of 2, 2nd and 12. Lysak safety blitz picked up. Giles guns it to Terrence Edwards. Looks for a flag, and none is thrown.
Milton Collins broke on that pretty well in a discussion with Dwight Anderson right now, saying, no, it was okay, contact. He said, okay, thanks. Comes the in route, and again, you mentioned Wes Lysak up in the line of scrimmage. That's why Stephen Giles wanted to go into that middle. And there's Milton Collins, who breaks on it. Maybe contact was a little bit early.
Looks like it. Collins, a physical DB, playing alongside a very physical corner in Brandon Browner. And got away with one. Pressure from Eric Fraser. Pretty good boot by Cerna. Dion Murphy. Gonna shake and bake, get up to the 50. For a guy who's really coming into his own as a kick returner in this league after a 47-yard boot by Alexis Cerna.
7-yard average in punt returns and 27.8 kickoff returns. Henry Burris, 11 of 15, 187, and he had his star pupil, Kenyon Rambo, his star receiver. A little bit of an outburst after the last one kind of stopped that last drive.
Burris with 7 touchdown passes in the last 2 weeks, one more tonight. And he'll pull this one down. Moulton Hopkins there with the tackle. Just a reminder, the CFL on TSN continues next week. A Wendy's Friday Night Football doubleheader. Game 1. Rough Riders take on the Alouettes. A rematch of that Canada Day spectacular. Immediately following that, the Argonauts face the Eskimos. 10 Eastern, 7 Pacific for the second game of the doubleheader. The Eskimos in their first game without general manager Danny Machocha. Big pressure on, and Burris got away. R.J. Franklin pops it up. Is that a fumble? The Bombers are on. And that's Alex Suber with it as the former Winnipeg Blue Bomber. R.J. Franklin puts it on the carpet.
And was it a fumble or was it incompletion? Did R.J. Franklin have control? First of all, Henry Burris avoids the contact. Now let's take a look here. Oh, it looks like he caught it with both hands. He didn't have a time to tuck it away, but was that enough time to constitute possession of the football?
Ike Charlton with the strip.
And this is where sometimes the officials in the replay booth are concerned about replay. No challenge flag yet.
John Hupnagel's got his hand on it. There seems to be some indecision. And the Bombers are going to get the playoff, so no call. Giles wants to go deep. And it's incomplete. Trying to hook up with Adarius Bowman. A long, loud incompletion. The 3-minute warning here at McMahon. Yeah, 2nd and 10. Winnipeg at the Calgary 46, 6 receivers out. And Terrence Edwards pasted. There's Milton Collins again. It's been a good matchup here in the first half of the game.
Well, Milton Collins, I heard the Calgary coaching staff this week talking about how he can really become a CFL All-Star in his own right. And Milton Collins just in his 3rd year sitting off the line of scrimmage here, and real nice timing on this. He knows there's a hot route because Wes Lysak's up in the line of scrimmage. You're going to want to get it out there quickly, so times it up absolutely perfectly.
And that saves 3 points because if Edwards hangs on, they're in field goal range. Instead, Cerna will punt. And drive sack, looked for the corner, but this one drilled into the end zone and through the end for a single point. So it's a 2-point game. We've got 2:22 to go in quarter number 2, and then live at the half, we'll check in with the guys, see what they've detected from the first 30 minutes of football. Milt, Matt, Schultze, and of course Dave Rendorf. You know, I was going to ask you about play selection there. They're at the 46. We saw BC last night on the cusp of a game-tying field goal, and they elected to go for more instead of just moving it a little more into field goal range. And Winnipeg took a long shot and then incompletion and failed to capitalize on getting into field goal range. There's Rambo again, and he is cut down by LeVar Glover. And the Bombers are going to test that knee to make sure Kenyon Rambo's 100%.
Yeah, and I was going to say, you know, the tackle from Ian Logan and this tackle that you're going to see right here will actually be beneficial to Kenyon Rambo and just the psychology of coming back from an injury, because he's had 2 shots now low to his legs, and he needs to feel that and be confident that he can take those hits and get up and be okay, and those will go a long way.
4-yard gain, 2nd and 6. Burris stands in, and Mr. Reliable's been Nick Lewis on 2nd down tonight. Ike Charlton with the tackle, but Nick Lewis keeps moving the chains.
The reaction of Ike Charlton there is like someone made a mistake on that defense. Nick Lewis is just going to go down the seam and then put the brakes on. This is a matchup we'll see a lot of tonight. Ike Charlton, but I believe the newcomer in there, Morel Johnson, didn't widen far enough to help him out underneath.
Now Burris kind of hooks that around the rush, and he's got Kenyon Rambo. That was a pretty nifty release by Henry Burris.
Well, and after getting beat deep a couple of times early in that first quarter, Ian Logan is staying squarely back in that middle, deep in the secondary.
And you're not surprised by that?
Not at all, because 2 plays he went up to the line. One was a big one to Nick Lewis, and then a touchdown to Kenyon Rambo. So he's staying back, and the Bombers are playing more zone defense. So now the Calgary Stampeders have to be a little more patient.
2nd and 1, short yardage team on. Rob Cote and Randy Chevrier as tight ends, and they'll run the quarterback option. And Drew Tate surges down to the 37 and has the first down.
It's different. Cavis Reed, you saw a shot of him in the booth, the defensive coordinator, who's trying to figure out what's going to work best as this game evolves. He tried to play aggressively, play man-to-man defense, and send pressure. Henry Burris recognized it, went down the middle, and beat him a couple of times. He's going a lot more zone with Ian Logan in the middle now, so Burris has to be patient, throw those underneath routes, and get his receivers running after the catch.
First down, Stamps. Here comes the rush. Dumped off. Joffrey Reynolds. And Joe Logan down there. He got some help from former University of Calgary star Digi Adewale.
There's that dump pass I'm talking about, where Dave Dickinson now, who's working to coordinate the offense with John Hufnagel, calling the plays, though, throughout the game, and he's the guy communicating to Henry Burris. So now he's seeing a lot more zone. And, boy, you played zone defense against Dave Dickinson when he was a quarterback. Right, he would eat you alive with zone defense. So he's going to be able to communicate what he knows to number 1 standing right in front of him about what he's seeing right now defensively.
Have an injured Bomber on the play getting attention.
And for Winnipeg, Chris, that zone, and it looks like a D lineman down, but that zone is going to mean there's more pressure on the front 4, because the Winnipeg Blue Bombers are going to have to rely now on those 4 guys to get pressure, and it is Hopkins, Moulton Hopkins. Have to rely on them to get pressure on their own, and maybe sending 1 linebacker, and that's about it. So the chess game goes on here tonight.
Hopkins, who had the interception for a touchdown last week, a sack, 3 tackles, was a force. 8 yards for Reynolds, 2nd and 2. And here's Joffrey trying to get outside. Philip Hunt will get the horse collar call.
Yep.
And he'll argue that.
He's trying to explain that it came from the side.
Horse collar tackle. Winnipeg number 53.
And Hunt heated up about that. Let's take a look.
Penalty, first down.
Yeah, you know what? It's just, this is close, okay? And I know why Philip Hunt is upset, because he goes on the angle. He does get him from the side, and you can see as he turns him, but that's
a horse
too close. Absolutely. And you're going to call that every time, because you know why? You have to protect the players. You have to protect these guys, and those horse collar tackles are very dangerous. So even if it's a bit on the side and then rotates to the back, they're going to call that every time, and you got to call it. It's a good call, and Philip Hunt will realize that.
15-yard penalty takes it to the 15. First down, Stampeders threatening. Here's Rambo again, looking for his 2nd, and brought down at the 5. Ian Logan, the safety, preventing the touchdown.
They said they wanted to get him the football. Now with Kenyon Rambo playing at slot back, now Dave Dickinson and John Hufnagel have him available for plays like that, where they can start him in the backfield, have him come out. He's almost like a running back heading out to the flat, and that time he shows some nice little burst.
5 catches, 82 yards here in the first half. Reynolds and Thelwell out, and Dion Murphy lined up in the backfield. And there is Murphy. Touchdown. Dion Murphy has his second touchdown of the season as the Stampeders add to their lead.
Seen the play already. Starts one left side of the formation, shoots across. Henry Burris just waits till he clears that linebacking core and defensive line, gets outside of it. And pay dirt.
Favor the extra point. And the Stampeders have a 9-point lead.
Trying to incorporate him more and more as the season goes on into the offense as Murphy shoots through. And there's Ian Logan again. And it seems like anytime Ian Logan goes after the quarterback in Henry Burris, he makes a play.
So Dion Murphy, who has been explosive on special teams, has his 9th catch and second touchdown of the season. And Henry Burris has been razor sharp here in this first half.
You know what he is? He and Dave Dickinson have got a nice game plan together, and they're really recognizing the defenses that are put in front of them by Cavis Reed.
There's Marcus Howell, 4 years here in Calgary with the Stampeders, retired and then came out of retirement to play in his hometown. Carl McCartney on the tackle, and 25 seconds remaining in this first half. We'll see how Stephen Giles utilizes that time.
Very interesting chess match going on here, and Stephen Giles take a shot down the field, may have a chance, but doesn't want to turn it over either.
Receivers out. On the sidelines, Bowman is jolted out by Brandon Browner, short of the first down. 8 plays, 75-yard touchdown drive.
I just love the chess match going on now between defensive and offensive coordinators as Henry Burris is being patient, throwing it underneath. Kenyon Rambo back involved, looks great after his rehab, coming out of the backfield there, and then the touchdown. Ian Logan on a blitz again from the safety spot, and Murphy makes a pay underneath there down on the goal line.
Second and a couple, and Giles in some trouble. Got it away, and Jeffers Harris is brought down for a big loss with 13 seconds left. And John Hufnagel wants to call timeout.
Looks like Stephen Giles was trying to change the defense, hadn't even looked for the football just yet. So a problem with the snap count.
That another first sound issue. Somebody might have barked out and the ball was snapped.
Which is a penalty, by the way, when a defensive lineman deliberately tries to bark at the center to try and force a mistake like that. Robbie Kahn just a little off target too, though. Stephen Giles didn't hit him in the stomach, went by him, so he had to scramble to go get it.
So John Hufnagel stopped the clock, 13 seconds to go. Calgary, with a return here by Murphy, could get a chance to get back in field goal range.
He took a quick look at the clock, saw he has 13 seconds left.
They put some pressure on Cerna. Flags fly. And is this a time count violation? And this will enhance Calgary field position if it is.
Oh boy.
Illegal procedure. Winnipeg number 47. It's a 5-yard penalty. Remains third down.
Well, different penalty, but same result. Pierre-Luc Labbé moved, and that will march it back 5 yards. And now Murphy awaits at midfield.
Well, his average, I mentioned, was right around 7 on punt return. So if he just gets his average, almost field position already here for a field goal.
Pretty good boot. Murphy at his 49. There's his average, and right about on average is Clint Kent there to stop him at the Winnipeg 53. 3 seconds left, and that is out of Rob Maver range.
Yeah, it's out of his range, but I just wonder if Henry Burris and the Calgary Stampeders here take the lead, take a knee, and go in at halftime, or do they just try and throw it up and see if they can't draw a penalty flag?
Our producer John Hines reminding us of a Hail Mary to Teo Johnson on the final play of a first half a couple of seasons ago. Let's see what Dave Dickinson and Henry Burris come up with. Flag. And Henry just throws it away. Does he get to the line of scrimmage? I don't think so, but Academic with no time on the clock here.
Bombers dodge one there. It could have turned into 3 points against the Winnipeg Blue Bombers.
All police quite content to decline the penalty and head to the locker room.
Holding, Calgary, penalties declined. Illegal forward pass, Calgary, penalties declined. Half is over.
So that will do it. Kenyon Rambo returning to action. And what an impact he makes. Stamps have the lead at the half.
Are your halftime numbers brought to you by Tim Hortons, proud sponsor of the CFL. Matt.
Yeah, Dave, I think everybody on the panel kind of agreed that it was going to be a tough night for Winnipeg. So far in the first half, it's pretty lopsided. The first downs, the passing, the net yards, and the yards in the second quarter is huge. But the biggest smile I have on my face is because this guy right here, Kenyon Rambo's back in the game and making a difference.
You know who loves having him back is Henry Burris, and he just spoke with our Jermaine Franklin.
Henry Burris, how nice is it to have Kenyon Rambo back in the offense?
Oh, I mean, it's great. I mean, you know, like I said, he gives us an emotional swing, and to see him out here making plays and trying to go through his ruts early on, it's all part of the game. But the emotions that he brings and the talent that he brings, it definitely has helped our offense, and it's shown today.
It certainly didn't take long for the chemistry between you two to come back.
Well, I tell you, you know, when you've worked with a guy for so many years, you can ask quarterbacks across the league. You know, I mean, basically you see him in your sleep sometimes, and you know, he did a great job working to get open on that first touchdown pass, and you know, he's the reason why we've been able to move the ball, and he's done a great job of that.
Thanks, Hank.
Hey, thank you.
9-point game of the half. Very eventful day in the CFL today. An earlier game in Saskatchewan, Hamilton and the Riders, and big news out of Edmonton. For more on that, here's James Zabalski with a Sports Center update.
You know, it's pretty crazy, Dave. You think about what Arlan Bruce did earlier tonight, and you consider 16 catches, 272 yards, one of the greatest receiving games in Canadian Football League history. And it still wasn't enough for the Hamilton Tiger Cats, but this was also impressive right here. How about this footwork by Dave Stella on the touchdown? Stiegel, could you have ever done this? I don't know, man. You've been like from your Thriller days or something like that. And how about this grab from Andy Fantu's highlight reel? Right there as the Riders improved to 4-1 with a 37-24 win. The Edmonton Eskimos got their first win of the season last night. Still not enough to save Danny Machocha's job. The Eskimos firing their GM today, but the team's coaching staff, including head coach Richie Hall, remains employed for the time being. Those stories and a whole lot more coming up on Sports Center following the Stamps and Bombers. Yours truly, along with Brian Mudrick, breaking it all down, plus the latest in the Major League Baseball trade deadline.
Picked up, pass complete, touchdown. Kenyon Rambo's back. Henry right side, busted it, and goodbye. Fast Freddie Reed, touchdown. Headed to the second half at McMahon. The Bombers trail by 9, and Paul LaPolice is with Jermaine Franklin.
Coach LaPolice, one of the successful drives involved Fred Reed with the touchdown. Will we see more of him in the second half?
Yeah, that's something you got to try to do. Sometimes they're putting an extra guy in the box, so they have too many in, and you're going to have to throw the ball when they have too many. But, you know, part of our game plan is still mix it up, but get first down so we can get everybody touches, and Fred definitely still has to touch the football.
The Stampeders were successful with their passing attack. How do you slow that down in the second half?
Well, you know, I think we have to tighten up a little bit on 2nd and long, and on 1st and 10, we got to just make sure we're covering our guys.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
So definitely outstatted in the first half, but the game still within reach for the Bombers.
And I'm not surprised that the Calgary Stampeders defensively are going to try and load up the box and make Stephen Giles win this game with his arm.
There's Daryl Stevenson. Back waiting the opening kickoff of this second half. Rob Maver with it on the tee. And it's Javon Johnson. And he is brought down just beyond the 25-yard line.
I thought Stephen Giles had a decent first half. When you look at his numbers, though, you wouldn't think so with just 59 yards passing. He started off with a couple of drives, and the successful drives, there was a lot of Fred Reed. And look at the numbers for Henry Burris. They're on pace for a 400-plus yard game. So the Winnipeg Blue Bombers are going to have to tighten up and decide what they want to do with their safety in Logan, because when they bring them down low, they've been burned.
First down, play action fake to Reed, and he's going to stretch it out. He's got Terrence Edwards. And Edwards with a catch at the Calgary 46.
Nice play action fake here to start things out for Stephen Giles. Is going to suck these linebackers in a little bit. That's Malik Jackson and Juwan Simpson. And watch how they move forward. They see Fred Reed, so they're going to slide over to try and stop him. When they do that, that gives Stephen Giles some nice time in throwing lane. And he gets it up over the top to Edwards.
36 for Edwards on the money. Terrence Edwards averaging over 20 yards a catch coming into this game. Now it's Reed. Trying to find a crease, and Malik Jackson there limits the damage as Reed's dropped at the 43.
I found that interesting at halftime there that Paul LaPolice talked about, that they're loading up the box sometimes to try and take away our running game. Chris Jones is going to try and do that because Stephen Giles is in his third start in Canadian football. So if you make Giles one-dimensional, that forces LaPolice to tell his quarterback, well, now they're going to have to throw the football over the top. So now we're going to rely on Stephen Giles to go ahead and win the game with his arm. So that's going to be the strategy for the Calgary Stampeders. Take that run away.
2nd and 6. And Giles looking deep again, looking for Edwards again, and it's knocked down. Dwight Anderson and Milton Collins, and Anderson is still down after breaking up the play.
Terrence Edwards working one-on-one, first of all, with Milton Collins, and he's going to get help because he makes a real nice move on Collins to make him flip his hips, but he gets help underneath from Dwight Anderson, who leaves his man. Now, how did he injure himself as he came down there? It looks like he came down awkwardly, maybe on that left foot, left ankle. Training staff didn't have to come out, so he doesn't have to come out.
Cerna to punt. They opt not to try a 49-yard field goal. Wind not an issue here. But Paul LaPolice wants field position as this one bouncing down. And just about perfect. They'll throw the no yards flag, but the Stamps will be inside their 10 when they start their offense second half. Because Merrill Johnson, who was within that 5-yard area, had been pushed by a Stampeder. So it is a tough spot for Calgary to start.
And the Stampeder was Dwight Anderson. You could see him in the middle of his back, pushing him into the no yards area. So that was waved off, and Henry Burris starts on his own 5.
Joffrey Reynolds trying to dig him out of a hole, but he's stuffed after a couple. Big Doug Brown, the veteran run stopper.
10 tackles for Doug Brown coming into this week, and it's a defense that is third against the run, just over 100 yards a game. First against the pass. They've had great pressure up front from Odell Willis and Phillip Hunt off the edges, and then you get that big push from Doug Brown down the middle. So a big down for this Winnipeg defense to grab some momentum on the road right here on 2nd and long.
Brown now the number 3 tackler in Winnipeg Blue Bomber history. And you're right, big second down here, second and long. From his end zone, guess who? Nick Lewis. Close to a first down. That would be his 5th second down conversion of the night. And they do have the first.
The league is tracking that now, and we are tracking that now. And Nick Lewis with 5 second down conversion catches is going to shoot up that list.
That gives him 11 on the year.
And I believe the leaders coming into this week were right around the 9 mark. So that's the clutch receiver. You make that catch on second down or you have to punt.
And you put a little asterisk beside that one when it gets you up to the 15-yard line and a new set of downs. Pressure, Burris just got it away. And there's R.J. Franklin with the catch. Former Bomber came over with Romby Bryant last September. This is the first time that those former Bomber receivers have played against their old team. Odell Willis coming the other way.
Winnipeg's rookie nominee in 2006, and I know he was looking forward to playing this game, but none of the players that have played on either team were talking about revenge. So the players have changed so much, it's really not even the same.
4 for Franklin, 2nd and 6. And Burris over the middle. It's another completion, and this to Romby Bryant. And a couple of big first downs for Calgary. LeVar Glover trips up Romby Bryant, but they're out of that hole.
Now, this is a short throw, but it's right where it has to be because Romby Bryant comes across the middle with such great speed that if this is behind him at all, he has to slow down and doesn't get the corner. But Henry Burris puts it right where he has to. It's not a long throw, but look how accurate it is as he leads him out in front, catches it in stride, and does not have to slow down at all to gather up that football.
Last 3 weeks for Burris, 257, 207, and 279, but he's on his way to a 300-yard game and looking very sharp and taking off for a first down run up to the Calgary 48-yard line.
You know, there was some talk, everyone wondering what was going on with Burris after the Toronto loss, where he threw 4 interceptions in that game. And then the first half against Saskatchewan last week, he threw 2 interceptions, one being really his fault, one a communication issue, but then bounced back with 4 touchdown passes in the game. It looks like Henry Burris right back. You know, he's 4-1 after a game where he throws 3 interceptions. He improved to 4-1 last week.
Sharpest performance of the season. It looks like for Burris, and Joffrey pounds across midfield.
See a veteran running back and Joffrey Reynolds there. I mean, he basically has the composure and confidence to just stop, let it develop for a second. He hits it here, and he'll just stop for a second, let it develop. Most running backs just run right into the back of their players right there. He's just going to hit that. Most backs will do that. Watch, he'll just stop. No, gather up. No, okay, I got a bit of a seam back to the backside. That takes tremendous confidence from a veteran.
7 for Reynolds, 2-time rushing champion, 3rd in the league coming into this game in the run category. And there's a first down run for Joffrey Reynolds down to the Winnipeg 49.
This is becoming a bit of an MO here for the Calgary Stampeders and Dave Dickinson to kind of come out slinging it a little bit, and then the second half, they did this last week as well, in the second half start pounding Joffrey Reynolds and John Cornish. I mean, the Calgary Stampeders against Saskatchewan last week had 247 yards rushing.
Good looking drive that started at the 4. They've moved it 56 yards, 4 first downs, and back into the hand. Oh, a fake to Reynolds, and that pass caught by Bryant. Dragged down by Javon Johnson, but Romby Bryant, the other former Bomber receiver, with another catch.
Boy, fundamentally, that's just textbook from Romby Bryant to first of all come back to the football, then don't let it hit your shoulder pads, don't let it come to your body. You got pressure behind you with your hands, secure the catch, and move the chains.
Ian Logan has taken a knee and getting attention. The safety as Romby Bryant reacquaints himself with an old teammate.
Some injury problems for Ian Logan. He's sort of been on and off and had issues in training camp with his neck.
Missed the last 2 with a hamstring. And I know you weren't picking on Ian Logan. It
No,
just happened to
absolutely
the
not.
3 safety blitzes were victimized.
Yeah, no, and he was doing his assignment. I mean, he came down low. He declared it early, but it looked like that was by design as well.
So Brady Brown checks in. 9th play of the drive. Good looking 3rd quarter drive for Henry Burris, and look at that shake and bake. And is brought down by Brady Brown inside the 20.
Wow, he just freezes Joe Lobendon in his tracks because it looked for a minute there, and here we go with that play that they're so good at. It looked for a minute here that Henry Burris was caught in the backfield by the middle linebacker, Joe Lobendon. Defensive end takes running back. We see that. Okay, that's eliminated. So Henry Burris pulls it out of the stomach. Now he gets it to the outside. One-on-one, Joe Lobendon. Look at him freeze. He was in cement there. Edwin Harrison got a little piece of him, too.
19-yard run for Burris. And now in trouble. And Paul slipped, and the Bombers looked like they may have got on it. Odell Willis knocked it out of the hands of Henry Burris, and the Bombers come up with it. So a good-looking Stampeder drive results in a turnover, and the Bombers will have the football when we come back.
Tremendous pass rush here from Odell Willis coming off the edge. He's working on the All-Star, and Ben Archibald drives him up and then turns his shoulders inside. And now it looked like Henry Burris wanted to try and throw that ball away. He's holding it up there for Willis to swat at it. And a big turnover for Winnipeg.
Remember Odell Willis, a former Stampeder, who would have lined up against Ben Archibald in practice and got the better of him there. Forced fumble. Philip Hunt, the other defensive end, comes up with it, and that's a potential TSN turning point. That was a good-looking Calgary drive. They look poised to extend their lead. Now Fred Reed up to the 35, close to 5 for Reed, who has a 46-yard touchdown run in this game. 7th carry, 65 yards for the Bomber running back.
Big Blue Bombers hanging around here. A nice play, and if they can capitalize with some points on it, really have a chance to grab some momentum here in this game in the 3rd. Need a couple of first downs, though, at least to change that field position and get it back.
Hasn't been much of Terrence Jeffers Harris yet tonight. Eric Fraser on the blitz. Into the hands of Darius Bowman. And Michael Pinchot over there to help bring him down. And the spot of the football gives Winnipeg a first down. I think Mike Labinjo's been relatively quiet so far this season.
He's been sort of on and off and in and out of the doghouse a little bit again. A little consistency from Mike Labinjo will keep him right in that starting lineup.
1st and 10 at the 40 for the Bombers. Here comes the rush off the edge. Malik Jackson brings down Stephen Giles.
Number 11, Malik Jackson, is going to try and line up inside, almost like he's going to come on an inside move. Then just before the snap of the ball, bounces out, comes off the edge, but makes the sure tackle and doesn't go high. It's real tempting when you're that free to take the free shot in the back of the head of the quarterback and try and get that big hit. But disciplined tackling there from Malik Jackson.
10th sack of the year for Calgary. 5 have come from the linebackers. 2nd down, a deep shot, looking for Edwards again, and it's broken up, and the flag flies. Dwight Anderson is called this time.
You know, Dwight Anderson had to work over top of Terrence Edwards to get to the football.
Pass interference. Calgary, number 33, automatic, first down.
You know, it looked like the contact was made at the right time, But because Terrence Edwards used his body, much like a basketball player will block out a defender to get a rebound. That's what Terrence Edwards does here. So he forces Dwight Anderson to come over top of him to try and get to the football. And he does pull him back a little bit with the left hand around the waist.
That's a 45-yard penalty and a first down for the Bombers. The draw, Reed. And he brought down quickly. Robert McCune with the stop. And a loss of 1 for Reed.
Well, that's well played by Terrence Edwards on that long one to just get the body position necessary, because Dwight Anderson really couldn't have covered him any closer. He was in perfect position and the timing was there, but this is a veteran receiver, and this is what he does. He times it up so he gets it at the high point. Now he's forcing the corner to fight through him to get to it and draw the flag.
2nd and 11. Fraser showing blitz. He's off the edge. Giles got by him. And Stephen Giles trying to get to the corner. And it'll be forced out. They'll be marking him at the 26-yard line. And he'll be a couple of yards short of a first down.
Eric Fraser's playing more and more in this defense, and he makes the one mistake you can't, the young rookie mistake for a defensive back on a blitz, and that is to leave your feet when the quarterback looks like he's going to throw. Keep your feet on the ground. Momi left his feet. Giles got the corner.
Good range by the defensive end, Justin Phillips, to get across and make sure Giles could not turn it up any further, preventing the first down and sending Alexis Cerna on to attempt a 33-yarder. And Cerna doing double duty, puts that one through, makes it a 6-point Calgary lead. Bombers get 3 off the forced fumble by Odell Willis, and with more on Willis, let's join Jermaine Franklin.
Thanks, Chris. The status of Odell Willis for this game was up in the air as he had some personal business he had to attend to back home, but he got things in order just in time to make it for a game that he definitely had marked on his calendar. The Stampeders brought him into the CFL, but they also traded him. Henry Burris was in contact with Willis this week, texting him saying he better make the game. Burris should be careful what he wishes for. As you mentioned, yes, he's already been a factor in this game.
Certainly has. Nick might take back that text. There's Nick Lewis with another catch. He has been prominent tonight. His 7th catch of the game. And the only news here is that one was not a second down conversion.
And that's his play. I mean, how many times have we seen Nick Lewis go about 8-10 yards, break it out, and the timing be right on to Lewis as he turns around? Now, he did catch that big one down the middle tonight.
Past Travis Moore into 3rd place on the all-time reception list with the Calgary Stampeders last week. 7 more tonight. Here's Burris, hit as he threw it, and it falls incomplete. So that Bomber front starting to dial it up.
You always take pressure as a defensive coach over coverage, because pressure can save you when the coverage isn't there. And Kenyon Rambo here is the intended target. He's going to cut across the middle, and he is open. I mean, he's got the right leverage, open inside there on Brady Brown, but the pressure saves the Winnipeg defense. And what a push up the middle.
And a push here. Dale's just got it away, and he booms one. Javon Johnson pushed back inside his 15. Brandon Browner down there first, and that's great cover after a tremendous punt by Burt Dales, 60 yards. Our sack tally is brought to you by Purolator, tackling hunger across Canada. Check.
Sea Lions got a couple last night to move out in front against the Edmonton Eskimos, and a loss there. First win of the season for Edmonton, and Winnipeg right on their heels.
Bombers have won tonight, the 11th by that front 4. Couple for Calgary. What a kick by Dales to relieve a little of the pressure here. But the Bombers have some momentum, but nothing doing on that handoff to Fred Reed as Malik Jackson there with the quick stop.
And Mike Labinjo. They both basically met in behind, knowing that Paul LaPolice wants to try and get his quarterback into second and manageable situations. So that's what they talked about at halftime. They're loading up the blocks. Look at all the players with red jerseys on, right on the line of scrimmage to limit 32.
Down to the final minute, third quarter. Big 2nd and 10 from deep in Winnipeg territory, and he bends it in the direction of Darius Bowman, and locked onto him was Brandon Browner.
One thing about Stephen Giles' deep ball that I've been seeing here tonight is that he really puts it on a line. He doesn't put a lot of air under that throw, and as he gets more time to play, he'll realize that'll give his, with the field being 65 yards wide, it'll give his receivers just a little bit more time to run underneath it. Now that's perfect coverage by Brandon Browner. Nowhere to really go there. But Giles, if he puts a little more air on those deep balls, he'll give his receivers a chance.
Now Burt Dales kicked Winnipeg into a hole with a 60-yard punt. Let's see what Alexis Cerna can do in response. Line drive, he'll need a bounce. And he didn't get it. Dion Murphy is dropped at the Winnipeg 46. So the value of the punt game, 60 for Dales, 36 for Alexis Cerna. Well, the boys of summer are back and they're hungry. Shark Week returns tomorrow, 9 Eastern and Pacific, only on Discovery Channel.
Saw one eat a rocking chair once.
You saw what?
No, that's a line from maybe my favorite movie of all time, which was Jaws. And Quint mentioning, no, never mind. Robert Shaw.
Long time ago.
Yes. It's Retro Week coming up, isn't it?
Burris can't find anybody and goes a long route and does connect with Robbie Bryant. They're saying, are they going to mark it? Going to talk about it.
Well, he was pushed out.
And they are going to call it a catch.
One ref waved it off and the other one came in quickly.
It's a pickup of about 3. As you can see, Suber taking him out. But they call it a catch on the final play of the third quarter. It's a 6-point Stampeder lead as we head to the fourth.
Lead the league in time of possession per game. They do again in this, and you can see the difference in yardage. But it's just a 6-point lead. The Winnipeg Blue Bombers, Chris, are really hanging around here.
They have been hanging around, and they got a turnover in the third quarter. You get the impression of one big play, and they could steal one here for the first time since 2002.
Well, and that 2nd and 18 play with the pass interference called to Dwight Anderson could become that much bigger as well, because the Bombers got 3 points out of that. Now, this is an important drive if Henry Burris can finish it.
Stamps have moved close to field goal range. 2nd down. Burris steps up, shakes Logan down again, and gets down to the 35-yard line on a 1st down.
Well, Joe Lobendon is getting frustrated because this is really the middle linebacker's dream when he can get into a situation where he can take a shot on a running quarterback. And this is a couple of times now in the game when number 58 has had that opportunity. He wants to try and jam that crosser. Now he's one-on-one in the middle of the field, and Henry Burris makes a miss.
8 more on the ground for Burris. 5th carry of the night. He ran 20 times in the first 2 games and then only 6 in the last 2. Letting Joffrey Reynolds do the bulk of the work in the last 2 games, along with John Cornish. And there is Reynolds down to the 30 with 5 more.
A lot of questions for Calgary coming in about their offensive line into this season, and Steve Middleton has really stepped up at that right guard. I mentioned earlier that Demetrius Soumpas is clearing waivers right now in the National Football League, puts a little bit more pressure on him, although John Hufnagel said this week that he's playing very well and he's happy with his O-line play.
Now, a lot of people wondered about this Calgary offensive line without Soumpas and Jesse Newman, Jeff Pilon. Burris going deep, looking for Robbie Bryant, and overthrows him. Former Calgary Stampeder Brandon Stewart was in coverage.
Well, and Stewart's limping back, and it looked like Brandon Stewart may have to take himself out here now. Calgary Stampeders in field goal, unless he's on the field goal return team. Well, he is trying to make his way back on the field.
So Rob Maver comes on. He'll attempt a 37-yarder. And the rookie puts it up, but it is good.
Wow.
Maver has still only missed one in his young CFL career.
This was very, very close. Rob Maver's field goal. A lot of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers turned around and tried to wave this off for the officials. Let's take another close look at it here. Now, we are behind it. Blow it up, and as it comes through there, it looked like it went wide right. Ike Charlton, Odell Willis both trying to wave it off, but that official down on the left side, he put his hands up immediately.
Can be an optical illusion on that replay, but we saw Bombers waving it off, and it certainly looked like it was just right of the upright. Completion to Brock Ralph. 9-point game. Well, that's a critical call.
Well, it is, and I saw the Bombers reacting. But again, the official underneath the goalpost immediately put his hands up. And he has the best view. He's looking straight up that upright. You mentioned it could be a bit of an illusion, but Ike Charlton was sure. He was.
Charlton and Odell Willis, who were running downfield, getting set to block on the return, both were waving it off. Second and less than a yard. And Reed fake. They're going to go deep with the penalty marker down, and Terrence Edwards can't hang on. Drop for Terrence Edwards, who looked like he got in behind Dwight Anderson. And there's a missed opportunity.
Boy, is it ever, because he was in behind, and that time Stephen Giles put a lot of air under the ball. And when he does that, he gave Terrence Edwards a chance to run underneath it. He had a shot, just slipped through his fingers. By the way, you cannot challenge whether or not a field goal is in or out.
Stampeders called offside, so it is a first down for Winnipeg, but a missed opportunity.
You can see that post pattern. They put a lot of air under this from Stephen Giles. He has a chance. You see how he can adjust and run to it. And boy, he makes that catch 9 out of 10 times.
So first down up at the Bomber 49. And Giles with that look in, and it is incomplete, intended for Fred Reed. They're just past the 3-minute mark of the fourth quarter. 9-point game, and Giles looking at 2nd and 10 from midfield, trying to get them into scoring range here.
Well, at least answer that real controversial field goal. Keep it a one-score game if he can get the 3.
Second and 10. Pump and go, and wide open. Terrence Edwards. One drop, but not this one, and it's a touchdown, Bombers. 61 yards, Stephen Giles to Terrence Edwards.
Well, this is all by formation as Terrence Edwards is working with the Darius Bowman on the right side of the formation offensively. There's Bowman, there's Edwards. Watch how Brandon Browner back here gets caught up in both. He and Milton College jump up and both take Bowman, and they allow Terrence Edwards to slip in behind him. Wide open.
He's had a 90-yard touchdown and now a 61-yarder. And the Bombers are within 2.
The rule of thumb basically defensively here for Milton Collins and Brandon Browner is that if you're up and jamming a receiver like Collins is here on Terrence Edwards, then you stay with your man. He doesn't stay with him, and he comes off him onto a Darius Bowman. Now, Brandon Browner sees him in press coverage like that. He thinks he's going to stay with Edwards. He comes up to jump Bowman, and they end up both covering.
Got a 2-point game. Dion Murphy with the burst. He has been explosive. And Murphy up across the 40. Alex Suber finally pushed him out. Was concerned about Edwards this week. Back spasms. Had him miss some practice time, but nothing wrong with Terrence Edwards tonight.
Well, you don't get many opportunities like that where you are wide open. And with a couple of the drops from some very good receivers early in this CFL season, but talking to receivers around the league about, the toughest catches to make. And to a man, they almost always say, it's that kind, when you're wide open and you're waiting for the football to arrive.
So a little heat now on Henry Burris, who's had a big night, and he goes to Nick Lewis. And Lewis with another catch just in front of LeVar Glover. 7 yards. And Henry Burris over 300 for the second time this season, and for the 4th time in his last 5 meetings against the Winnipeg Blue Bombers.
Yeah, Joffrey Reynolds hasn't had a lot of success running against this team, but Burris has throwing against it.
First time for Burris since week 1 against Toronto. 2nd and 3 here. And Reynolds doesn't have any success there either, as Philip Hunt was waiting for him, stuffing the rush and forcing 3rd down.
Joffrey Reynolds, in his 2,900-yard games, only 1 against the Winnipeg Blue Bombers.
And his lowest average per carry against Winnipeg, 5.1.
He only has 19 yards rushing here tonight on 7 carries. So once again, the Blue Bombers, great run defense against number 21.
3rd down, Dales to kick. This one not as deep. And it's going to bounce out just inside the 25-yard line. So we're under 10 minutes to go, and we're in for a finish at McMahon. Well, the Calgary Stampeders have seemingly been in control most of the night, but all of a sudden, Stephen Giles and company are within 2, and they've got the football, a 1st down at their own 24-yard line with just over 9.5 minutes to play. Fred Reed, nothing. Brandon Isaac moved up from his defensive halfback position.
There's the backup quarterback, Alex Brink, and the only reason I show him is because Stephen Giles wants to take advantage of his opportunities while he can. Apparently, Buck Pierce is getting closer every day to getting back into the lineup, and Paul LaPolice has said that they will put Buck Pierce back in as the starter. So Stephen Giles has his opportunity. Remember, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers have not won here in McMahon Stadium since 2002.
Only Doug Brown and John Osterhaus remaining from that team that won at McMahon. 2nd and 7, short drop, flag down, and incomplete, intended for Bowman.
I think that looks like it was offside. Winnipeg, one of the receivers got into that neutral zone area. I thought it was TJ Harris.
Offside. Calgary, number 46.
Wow.
It's a 5-yard penalty, and we'll repeat. 2nd down.
It's Robert McCune in his 2nd game in the Stampeders defense. That moves it forward 5 yards. And
well, he had to line up offside because I didn't see movement from that D-line. Looks like he is bull-fudging the line just a little bit.
Well, now it's 2nd and 2. They're loaded up, but Fred Reed is able to find a hole and get the 1st down.
You got to give credit. You know, oftentimes it's easy when you're behind, and the Bombers have been behind, albeit not by a lot, but they've been behind. It's easy to sort of abandon your running game. Paul LaPolice has not done that tonight. He's kept a balance in the offense along with Jamie Barise. So, you know, Fred Reed appreciates that.
First down at the Winnipeg 37. Back in the hands of Reed. And he'll get just across the 40-yard line.
And it really does slow down a defensive line. You know, Paul LaPolice had to have, well, you know he did. He watched a ton of film, and he watched all the film from the Ryder game. And in that Ryder game, Tom Johnson, Devon Claybrooks, I mean, it was a fast break on Darian Durant, who was hit more than I think he's been hit in his career in the CFL. So a balance in a running game is going to help a young quarterback like Stephen Giles, and Paul LaPolice is sticking with it.
Ed Reed has not had a 100-yard game since Week 8 last year against BC. 74 tonight. Long out. Terrence Jeffers-Harris has the catch. Keenan Raymond stuck with him and prevents the first down. It'll be a couple yards short.
TJ Harris limping off, holding his ankle over on the sideline, and that was a play. Chris Jones decides to go with blitz there on second down and force a quick throw. Stephen Giles read the blitz, got it to the guy he had to, but the open field tackle of Keon Raymond forces the Bombers to punt.
So Jeffers-Harris in difficulty. 3rd and 2. Lots of time. Paul LaPolice not in a gambling mood. Cerna. High punt, Murphy at his 19. And he is brought down right at the 20. Great cover downfield.
So Burrs has a chance with the football now, and he's going to be facing, and has the last couple of series now, Brady Brown at safety. Ian Logan banged up early. We saw him leave a couple of series ago. He's not really returned to this football game. Injured his left leg. We see TJ Harris now. He's banged up on the sideline. So the Bombers are poised to try and steal one here at McMahon Stadium for the first time in 8 years, but we're going to have to do it. A couple of walking wounded here.
Henry Burris has seen a lot of that front four in the second half. Philip Hunt, Odell Willis, Doug Brown, and there they go. Burris. And again, it's a high hurdle for Nick Lewis. He's doing it all tonight. 18 for Nick Lewis. And that brings them to their feet.
Little hesitation there by Ike Charlton, who's been matched up on Nick Lewis. Here's the end of the play. Brady Brown tries to, and he didn't go that low on this tackle. He actually hit him about midsection. Look how high Nick Lewis goes to. That's the high hurdles.
Yeah, it might be the highlight of the night. Wow. Pump from Burris, and he's got Robbie Bryant, but overthrows him. Led him by a couple strides too far.
This is some kind of jump. I mean, Brady Brown comes up, and he doesn't dive at his knees. He's making a tackle shoulder pad height. That's pretty good numbers, too.
Huge night. Marlon Bruce had a night to remember, except for the end result for the Tiger Cats. 16 catches. Nick Lewis having a big game for Calgary. Now Burris has drawn Winnipeg offside, and another completion, and Lewis has the helmet knocked off. And
another flag, too. He's saying it was a face mask that ripped the helmet off. So a couple of flags here, and it looked like, at least initially, that it might have been offside Winnipeg, unless someone on that O-line moved. Nick Lewis having fun tonight.
Well, does the 10th catch of the night stand for Nick Lewis?
Henry Burris signaled, he was listening into the referee's huddle, signaled face mask. But what was the first call?
Bombers are indicating the first was
offside. Winnipeg 93. That penalty is declined.
Donald Oramassian, so they take the Lewis
Major
catch.
Foul, face mask, Winnipeg. Led 15 yards onto the end of the play. It's first down.
And a face mask call on top of that.
That's Nick Lewis. Now here comes Brady Brown. Right across the face mask and then pulls that helmet right off him.
That's for jumping over me. But it is 15 yards. Burris, pocket collapses, he takes off. And a big first slide for a first down at the Winnipeg 35. Under 5 minutes to go.
Great strategy in this game, back and forth, the chess match from the coordinators, some good play at quarterback from both Henry Burris and Stephen Giles. Now the Bombers, their goal here is to hold Calgary to just a field goal.
56 yards on the ground for Burris tonight to lead his team in that department. John Cornish is in now. And that pass broken up, and Odell Willis had his mitts on the ball for the second time tonight with the knockdown.
It's almost like he knows a little bit about how Henry Burris operates. That trade in September of '09, there he is right here, and he's not going up for penetration. He's basically just, he's going to step up the line. He sees the action from the offensive line pulling out there, so he knows it's hitch screen, and then just times it up nicely. He's almost had a couple of picks that way.
So 2nd and 10 from the 35. Quick drop, Burris, runner calls, and remember, Philip Hunt says, you're not going anywhere this time.
Boy, this may be the best defensive line in the league right now. And I know there's a couple of them go, hey, what about us? But this group just continues. I mean, Philip Hunt is working one-on-one on Ben Archibald. And he's gonna just take him up the field. Little inside slide move there, just a swim move over the top. That's an all-star in Archibald.
And the loss of 3 makes it a little more of a test for Rob Maber from 45 yards out. Trying to make it a 5-point game. And Maber puts another through. And it's 23-18. The Guelph, University of Guelph product has been almost perfect in his first 5 CFL games. You mentioned that front 4, though, and I asked Paul LaPolice early in the season if it was the best in the league, and he said, we gotta give these guys some time. It is just the 21st game for Odell Willis in the league, the 11th for Philip Hunt. Can they sustain this for a full season? But right now they're giving you every indication they will.
And Moten Hopkins is a rookie, and then you've got, of course, the veteran Doug Brown. But you're absolutely right. I mean, they just, and they do it with just 4. They're not having to send linebackers very often. When they tried early on to send the safety in Logan, they got in trouble there, so they went away from that and just let the guys up front get it done. And remember, Hopkins with a touchdown last week on an interception. Pressure from Odell Willis on that play on Ricky Ray. So
yeah, that Eskimo offensive line's not going to argue with any claim that they are near the top or the best front 4. I can hear John Bowman and Emily Stewart.
Yeah, I know there's a couple. Aaron Hunt's likely talking right now. So.
Drop from Javon Johnson, and he's in trouble. Bombers needed a return, didn't get one there from a guy who usually can provide a spark.
Well, what an opportunity here for Stephen Giles. Come into hostile territory, have a chance with 3:15 and a 5-point game to be able to move this football team down for the winning points if he could put together a drive here. Now, he has had success in Calgary. Remember last year he came in with the Saskatchewan Roughriders, played a full second quarter in that big shootout game.
Statsman Dave Moyer pointing out that Bombers opted to take a kickoff. They could have hit the ball at the 35, but they lose 20 on the gamble to return it. And Johnson couldn't get the job done. That pass will drop well into the turf, incomplete. And we're down to the 3-minute warning. And a good finish here at McMahon upcoming. Brought to you by Mr. Lube.
I agree with the panel. I know Matt Dunnigan talked about it at halftime. It's just great to see Kenyon Rambo back and playing the way he's played tonight, especially in that first half. Burris is over 300 again. And Nick Lewis, a big game, 161 yards, including one of the best high hurdles you're going to see in football.
Absolutely, and the 10 catches matches a regular season personal best. Had 11 in the 08 Grey Cup. Big 2nd and 10 here. Giles downfield. The play is pulled, and it's busted up by Brandon Browner.
You know, Darius Bowman had a step on Browner, and he's coming across the field, but the throw just a bit behind and a bit late. If Stephen Giles can get it out of there a little bit quicker, and you know what? It all comes down to his footwork and the drop in the pocket. If Giles just pulls up at about that 7-step drop area, he gets it in his hands quicker, and he may have a big, big play, but that extra split second gave Browner a chance to catch up.
Cerna from inside his 5, and he gets away a good one. Murphy back at his 45. Oh, and he'll step out at the 48-yard line.
All the talk about Kenyon Rambo and his return out of the gate. Nick Lewis just sort of quietly put together a very good game. That was his big play over the middle, but that little quick out the sideline is one that he just makes a living on. There he is again, right by the sideline. Safe guy always for Henry Burris, and that was one of the great vertical jumps in the game.
6 second down conversions for Nick Lewis. That was a 52-yard punt by Alexis Cerno, so give him top marks for that. Well, Burris trying to put the finishing touches on this. Suber with a good break on the ball, and he takes down Kenyon Rambo, who wants words with him.
That was another clean tackle, it looked like, and Kenyon Rambo has got to get used to getting hit again. But it is great to see him back and healthy and running the way he's running after major knee surgery in the offseason. But a good tackle in the open field.
Suber back for the first time since week 1 when he made an impression, was challenged in that opening game against Hamilton, but came through with flying colors. 2nd down, and Burris under duress. Odell Willis in pursuit, and Henry's just going to throw it away.
Well, he had Moton Hopkins, Odell Willis, and Doug Brown surrounded him. And that was survival from Henry Burris more than anything. Burris going to take that out this direction. Watch out, Odell Willis fights through the chip block as well from Joffrey Reynolds, and he's going to cut him off. And now look, 97, 95, and 40. I'd say that's a good decision.
Now that front has put the heat on. Now Burke Dales will drive the kick. Johnson from his 10. Bombers looking for a big return, and they get Javon Johnson up across the 20. A 48-yard punt by Burke Dales. And now Stephen Giles, with 100 seconds to go, is down by 5. Can he manufacture a game-winning touchdown and a Bomber victory here at McMahon?
This is why you play the game. For an opportunity like this, when you're a little kid on the street, this is the scenario you create with your buddies. Time's running out. You got the ball. You got to march it down the field.
2 touchdowns tonight by big plays. A 46-yard run by Fred Reed. 61-yarder to Terrence Edwards. Now on a roll. And Giles will take off. And Stephen Giles is dropped by Robert McCune up at the 29. About 4 to 5 yards for Stephen Giles on the ground.
Did a nice job there of protecting the football when he was going to get contact. 3 down time, it looks like, for Paul LaPolice at 1:33. A time that they don't necessarily have to call the plays on the line of scrimmage, but have to be quick with it in the huddle.
So 2nd and 6. There's Holman with the catch in front of Brandon Browner, and a big Winnipeg first down. 4th catch of the night for a first down by Darius Bowman.
Blitz recognized, quick throw, inside route for Darius Bowman, and a nice first down for Stephen Giles, and you can see him up front. All blitz for Calgary.
No Terrence Jeffers-Harris. They're going to go deep. He's got Edwards wide open. And he's got it at the 30-yard line. Milton Collins brought him down, but Terrence Edwards had 2 or 3 strides. Dwight Anderson with a late tackle, and Edwards appealing for a flag.
It's been an interesting matchup, and a double move by Terrence Edwards. Milton Collins trying to jump on that curl. He thought he was going to steal one there. A double move. He just jabbed his feet a little bit, and Edwards gets in behind him.
Anderson not sure if Milton Collins actually tagged him down, so he dropped him. Huge night for Terrence Edwards, and now they're down to the 30. On a roll, Stephen Giles looking for all of it. Into the end zone. Brock Ralph can't bring it down. Dwight Anderson there. The Bombers take a shot.
But that one hit Brock Ralph right in the shoulder pads. And he gets maybe a little distracted there from the right hand of Dwight Anderson. But if he goes up with his hands and gets both hands up there in the air, he has a chance at that one. That was a beautiful throw from Stephen Giles.
Missed chance for Ralph.
Giles, though, Chris, doesn't have to go to the end zone here. He has time to still work the ball down the field a little bit.
2nd and 10, 48 seconds on the clock. And that ball batted down and incomplete. That Tom Johnson off the edge.
And it comes down to a play. Let's take a look. Who came off that edge? Malik Jackson.
And so it is. Down to 3rd and 10.
Boy, and that's a gamble by Malik Jackson. If that's a pump fake and Giles takes off, he's still running. But he timed it right, knocked it down. It comes down to this.
Bombers have to get to the Calgary 20. Time for Giles. He wants all of it. Into the end zone and too far for Terrence Edwards. And it's a turnover on downs with 36 seconds to go. The Bombers come up 30 yards short.
You know, and this is back-to-back games where we've just seen, you know, a little inexperience at times with quarterbacks. You think back to last night in Edmonton and Travis Lulay. That's 2 shots to the end zone from way back with time on the clock for Stephen Giles. And, you know, it was a great throw to Brock Ralph. He probably should have come up with it. But he had plenty of time there to work the intermediate routes, keep Fred Reed involved, and move it down and get it close, and went for the home run on two plays.
Reynolds getting tackled before he gets back to the line of scrimmage.
You know, and it's tempting for a guy like Stephen Giles who, you know, hits the big play to Terrence Edwards on that great route. And then he wants to come in and say, hey, we've done it once, let's go right back to it. He goes to Brock Ralph. Can't hook up there. Now he's in 2nd and long. So, you know, it's just about the composure right down to the wire.
And to add to your point, he has, although Jeffers-Harris out, 2 other receivers who are 2 of the top 6 in yards after the catch, but he didn't get it into their hands to make them do the work. Went for the home run ball. And the Bombers have stopped the clock. 31 seconds to go. Reynolds again. And Joffrey up to the 38-yard line. It'll be 3rd and 2.
There's John Huffnagel, and right beside John Huffnagel in the gray sweatshirt is Hugh Campbell.
He was on the Edmonton sidelines last night I had trouble with Hugh Campbell wearing a Winnipeg hat last year. It's even stranger to see him in Calgary Stampeder gear.
Well, here's the thing, though. He was on the sideline in Edmonton last night. And in order to get on the sideline, I'm sure John Hufnagel said, look, yeah, I'd love to have you come down. It'd be great. You could just come down and hang out with me on the sideline. But there's only one condition. You got to wear a Calgary hat.
Well, of course, his son is the running back coach for John Hufnagel. They're running the clock down with 1 second to go and call the timeout.
You know, gutsy effort by the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. You know, for most of this game, Henry Burris moved the ball very well. Another 300-yard passing game. But, you know, I think the fans in Winnipeg...
Timer, please put 7 seconds on the clock. 7 seconds.
Okay, they're going to reboot it to 7 seconds remaining.
The Winnipeg Blue Bombers and their fans have to be, you know, excited about this effort. I mean, they hung around, they stayed in it on the road with a hot quarterback, and now it looks like to me when they do get Buck Pierce back, Chris, they're going to have 2 capable quarterbacks in the stable.
Calgary's still got to burn 7 seconds off the clock here, and they leave the offense out. Remember a couple of years ago in the Western Final, they did not kill the clock and gave up one last play. So Henry Burris going to toss it back, and Robbie Bryant. So this one maybe with 2 years of Robbie Bryant is brought down. 2-point safety. Well, flag down on the play, and the time has expired.
And I think the flag is a late hit. And see the number. It may have been Suber, I believe. Yeah. I think it was a late hit on Robbie Bryant in the end zone.
Major foul, unnecessary roughness. Winnipeg 25 has been declined. The game is over.
Brown. So the game is over. And the Winnipeg Blue Bombers put a scare into the home side, but the Calgary Stampeders stay with the Saskatchewan Roughriders. At 4-1, they're tied for first in the CFL West. While the Blue Bombers drop to 2-3. 23-20 final score here at McMahon as the Bombers have a chance to pull the upset, but come up short in the final minute. So long from Calgary. SportsCenter is next.